Sometime before the dawn cracked the horizon, Elena Torres stood in the freezing alley behind the bakery, her breath fogging the air like smoke. The street was silent except for the hum of the early delivery trucks and the faint clatter of glass bottles. She waited for Marco, the baker who never spoke of pity, only nodded and handed her a bag of day-old bread with a wink. Pride didn't fill stomachs, and Elena had long ago stopped feeding hers. Her daughter Maya was 7, gap-toothed, wild-haired, and still believed her mother could fix anything. Elena wanted to keep that illusion alive for as long as she could. The apartment they lived in was a 4th-floor walk-up that smelled of boiled cabbage and exhaustion. The radiator clanked like a dying machine. The wallpaper peeled like old skin. Yet it was theirs at least for 30 more days. The eviction notice on the door made that clear. 30 days to find 2 months' back rent or disappear into someone's spare couch. She worked 3 jobs, slept 4 hours, and every night prayed for a miracle. Once she'd had one. His name was Daniel, her husband. He was quiet, steady, and drew buildings that might have touched the sky if he'd lived long enough to finish them. But one morning his heart stopped beating, and with it her world. His family blamed her, his mother's words echoing like a curse. If he hadn't worked so hard for you, he'd still be alive. That winter, Elena learned the cruel truth of survival. Sometimes it's not the cold that kills you, but the shame that comes with asking for help. Sometime in early March, the phone rang while she was scrubbing another woman's kitchen floor. "Is this Elena Torres?" the man asked. "I'm calling about the estate of Bernard Castellano." The name meant nothing. Yet 40 minutes later, she sat in a lawyer's office, smelling of lemon cleaner and confusion, staring at a photograph of a mansion half swallowed by ivy and time. "He was your late husband's great-uncle," said the lawyer. "The property is now yours. No money, no savings, just an 8,000-square-foot tomb of someone else's past. Still, when you're drowning, even a sinking ship looks like hope." She drove there the next morning with Maya in the back seat, clutching a thrift store stuffed rabbit. The driveway was overgrown, the gates rusted, the house rising from weeds like a ghost. Inside, everything smelled of rot and rain. Grand staircases eaten by dust, chandeliers crooked like broken crowns. Yet beneath the decay, something whispered to her. Beauty, possibility. Maya called it the haunted castle. Elena called it maybe. When the lawyer warned her about taxes, about the cost, about walking away, she smiled faintly and said, "I've already lost everything once." She signed the papers. She didn't know it yet, but that signature would open a door to a secret worth $267 million, and a choice that would test her soul. Sometime later, after moving in, the mansion became both shelter and punishment. They lived by candlelight. Their dinners nothing but instant noodles and silence. When the wind howled through broken windows, Maya giggled and said the house was singing. Elena let her believe it. But the world outside was far less kind. Her in-laws showed up 3 days after she'd moved in, dressed like country club royalty standing in her ruins. "You're insane," Patricia hissed, "dragging my granddaughter into this dump." Gerald crossed his arms, his disgust quiet but heavy. "You'll fail. You always do." Their words cut deep. After they left, Elena sank to the floor beside Maya's sleeping bag and whispered into the dark, "I'll prove them wrong." She didn't know how, but survival had never required permission. That night, she walked the halls with her flashlight, taking notes, planning repairs she couldn't afford. And in the master bedroom, her beam caught on something carved into the wardrobe. An intricate pattern. Initials etched deep, BC. The wood hummed when she touched it. Hollow. She pressed harder and felt something shift, faint but real. A whisper of air from behind the panels. She froze, her breath sharp, her heart thudding. Behind that wall something waited. Something that had been hidden longer than she'd been alive. Sometime the next morning, sunlight sliced through the cracked windows like truth. Elena studied the wardrobe again. Its carvings told a story she didn't yet understand. A tiny button disguised among the patterns caught her eye. She pressed it, and a soft click broke the silence. The back panel shifted. Dust floated like ghosts as she pulled it open. revealing a narrow hallway that stretched into blackness. Her flashlight flickered against the old stone walls until it met a door sealed with a lock that looked medieval. One of the keys fit perfectly. The lock turned with a sigh. The room inside was small, windowless, lined with paintings, dozens of them. Canvases leaned against each other, covered in cobwebs and cloth. She lifted her flashlight and froze. Brushstrokes of gold, faces frozen in oil, seascapes and portraits of lost centuries. On a desk lay papers, yellowed, fragile. Bernard Castellano's journals. She read the words written by a man collapsing under guilt. I bought them. I didn't know they were stolen. I tried to return them. I failed. So I hid them. His collection hidden from the world, stolen during the war, unseen since. A vault of shame turned into a tomb of art. Tears blurred her eyes. The mansion hadn't just been a home, it was a confession buried in stone. Sometime that week the universe tested her. The property tax notice arrived, $3,200 due in 30 days. Elena had $400 to her name. Desperation clawed at her. She could sell one painting, just one, and save everything. But she couldn't shake Bernard's words. Maybe someone braver will do what I couldn't. Her reflection in the cracked mirror looked like that woman. Broke, terrified, but breathing. So she made the call. Meridian Art Recovery, said a man's voice. This is James Whitmore. Elena swallowed. I think I've found something you've been looking for. When he arrived, dressed in a gray suit and quiet authority, she led him upstairs. When she opened the hidden door, his face drained of color. My God, he whispered. This looks like a Vermeer. One painting missing since 1943, worth $50 million. Elena's hands trembled. They're stolen, she said. We have to return them. He looked at her, studying this woman in thrift store clothes standing beside a forgotten fortune, and said, Most people wouldn't have called me. She smiled faintly. Then maybe most people haven't been hungry enough to know what's worth keeping. Sometime soon after, the secret spread. Reporters, agents, experts, everyone wanted a piece of the miracle woman with the hidden art. Single mother finds Nazi-looted masterpieces worth $267 million. Headlines roared across the world. Cameras lined the gates. But while the world chased her story, Elena chased justice. Survivors came to the mansion, old hands trembling as they touched paintings they hadn't seen since childhood. A woman from Vienna whispered through tears, My grandmother died thinking this was lost forever. You brought her back. Not all the paintings were stolen. 40% were legitimate. Enough to change her life forever. When the FBI finished their work, an agent told her softly, You'll receive $112 million in assets and legal ownership. Elena laughed through tears. I used to beg for day-old bread, she said. Now I have enough to feed the world, but she didn't run. She stayed. Because some riches are too heavy to carry alone. They have to be shared to mean something. Sometime the following spring, the mansion awoke. The gardens bloomed again. The broken windows gleamed with new glass, and the name Castellano Memorial Museum shone in bronze above the door. Elena transformed the house of guilt into a beacon of redemption. Survivors donated letters, families shared stories, and experts helped return looted art to rightful heirs. On opening day, under skies the color of forgiveness, Elena stood before the crowd with Maya at her side. A year ago, she said, her voice steady, I slept on a floor and called it home. Then I found a secret that could have saved me or damned me. I chose what was right. The crowd stood in silence, and for a heartbeat the house seemed to breathe, alive again, not with sorrow but purpose. When Maya squeezed her mother's hand and whispered, We did it, Mama. Elena smiled through tears. No, she said softly. We undid it. Sometime years later, the museum became more than stone. It became a story that outlived its teller. Elena walked the rose-lined path as school buses arrived, children rushing in to learn about courage and truth. Maya, now 13, guided them through the exhibit, her voice strong and proud. My mom found these paintings, she'd say. But what she really found was bravery. Elena listened from the doorway, smiling. Every recovered painting, every returned artifact was another heartbeat restored to history. At night, when the museum lights glowed across the town that once pitied her, Elena would whisper, "We were never meant to stay broken." She'd write in her journal, "Legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you repair while you're here." And so tonight, as you finish listening to her story, wherever you are, whoever you are, ask yourself this. What hidden door in your life is waiting to be opened? What truth are you brave enough to face? If this story touched something inside you, share it, like it, subscribe so these stories keep breathing. And tell me, where are you right now as you're listening to this? Is it morning, night, or somewhere in between? Because somewhere out there, sometime right now, someone else needs to hear that broken things can still shine.